Greetings. My name is Brandon. I am part owner of Alliance Logistics LLC. Alliance Logistics LLC is a third-party logistics company slash freight brokerage. And I will start by saying that I am absolutely convinced, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, that the freight brokerage business absolutely provides an opportunity for those that are committed, dedicated, and willing to sacrifice. There's absolutely an opportunity there to build a freight brokerage or third-party logistics company into a multi-million-dollar business. I'm convinced of that. I've only been in the business 8 months now, and I've been able to clearly identify that possibility for certain. So I definitely wanted to say that up front. For those of you that have any ideas, any thoughts of the type of revenue this type of business can potentially produce, I would just say that there really isn't a ceiling. That's going to be totally up to you, the business owner, and how committed you are, how much you're willing to invest into building what it is that you want to build. So with that said, we've been in the business now for 8 months, and we kind of wanted to just share our journey, if you will. Share our journey and some of the hard knocks, some of the things that we would do, some things that we wouldn't do again. But when it really boils down to it, it's just we want to just kind of share our journey and what we've had to, go through thus far. And hopefully, in our experience, you'll find something that may benefit you in your business. And hopefully that maybe you can share something with us that will help us in our business. We live in an interdependent world. And of course, we're all dependent on each other to continue to strive to be the best that we can be in business, in life, or whatever venture you may be indulging in. So I wanted to kind of tell you how we got started. Simply, my business partner started to talk to me about the freight brokerage business. And he asked me to take a look at the numbers of the business and the potential of the business. And after some time of studying and trying to understand more about freight brokerage, we decided that it was something that we wanted to do for certain. So we wanted to figure out what was the best way to get started. And after doing some research, we realized that, first of all, you have to have someone to teach you or someone to train you in regards to how to operate. What are the do's and don'ts of the freight broker operation? What are some things that are legal? What are things that are illegal? So just understanding the business. Our understanding, our training came through a freight broker trainer. Freight broker trainer that my business partner looked up and found online after looking at several of them, and he was very comfortable with this particular freight broker. And I will say that it was a very, very well invested amount of money when we invested into our freight broker training. It was a step-by-step course that explained to you in depth of how to start, establish, build a freight brokerage business step by step. I'm a step-by-step person, so I kind of like things step by step. And this particular training was a step-by-step training, approximately 10 days of training, self-paced. We took about 10 days to get it done. And it taught you how to set up your business. It taught you about the client or the customer broker relationship. It talked about developing those relationships and who is the customer. In the world of freight brokerage, the customer is number one, the truck driver and the shipper. That's our customers, and we have to make sure that we are providing a service to the shipper, and of course, a service that they can, number one, appreciate. They, of course, identify it as a need, and that service exceeds their expectations. That is what we try to do. So with that said, we started to build our business after we had taken the class. Of course, one of the first things that you have to do is to get an authority, what some refer to as an MC number, a broker authority that gives you, makes you legal when it comes to being a broker to move freight from point A to point B. Of course, we had to also get what some refer to as a BMC 85 surety bond or surety bond. And with a surety bond, of course, comes credit checks and things of that nature to make sure that you are to check to see what type of risk you pose. And that's, of course, that's always going to be one of those things that have to be checked out when you're making financial decisions as far as a business is concerned. The business owner has to be checked out to see, of course, how creditworthy you are. So we have a surety bond, $75,000 surety bond, which is the requirement for freight brokerage or third-party logistics company. And of course, setting up an EIN, employee identification number for the business, Alliance Logistics. And then, of course, one of the next steps we took is to develop a business outline, a business plan outline. And I call it a business plan outline because we look at our business plan, of course, when it's completed, as a guide, as a guide that will guide us and direct us to where it is that we want to go. And we think the key thing is, of course, to identify where you are, and then, of course, identify where it is that you want to go, and then lay the plan out to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. And that's where we are as far as our business plan is. We have an outline, and we're starting to write that plan as we go. We're writing that plan as to now we can see, after 8 months in the business, we can see, okay, where we want to go. And now we're devising a plan to get to where we want to go. And I tell you that it's just absolutely, it's an amazing time. It is so much fun building a freight broker business. And I would imagine that with any business that a person is passionate about, that it would be a lot of fun. But I would have to tell you, this is so much fun. I look so forward to getting out of the bed in the morning at 3 a.m. as a matter of fact, to get started on my day, because it's such such a wonderful opportunity that I look at that lies ahead every day, and I'm so in a rush and like a child at Christmas, waiting on toys. I'm in a rush to see what challenge do I have that may be for the next day. What challenges out there? What do we have to overcome today? We kind of look at it as you have smaller problems now, and as we get better and as we earn our way to bigger problems, then of course we'll get the right to solve bigger problems. Right now we have small problems, so as we continue to go down the road, the bigger the problem, the more I would say the greater feeling of achievement when you solve a problem, and of course the greater the revenue you produce as well. Okay, so that's it for the developing the business outline, the business plan outline. Also, one of the early stages, one of the things that we had to do was pick a factoring company. Now, factoring companies are a very unique business. What a factoring company is, it allows for you to have your accounts receivables financed without you having to have necessarily a line of credit. So you get to, of course, pay your truck drivers, who are a very, if not the most important piece of the entire puzzle, to pay them on time. This business is about integrity, doing what you say you're going to do all the time. Factoring companies are great. They're a great way to finance your business, but at the same time, you also have to be very involved with the factoring process. If they tell you that your customer is going to get paid, if your paperwork is in by 2 and they pay by 5 p.m. the same day on a quick pay, well, if you, of course, relay that to your customer expects to get paid. Your truck driver expects to get paid at 5 o'clock. Just say, for instance, for whatever reason, the factor didn't pay on time that day. Well, your word said that you would pay the truck driver at 5 o'clock. So always be mindful of that, in my opinion. Be mindful of that and have a game plan just in case the factoring company does not pay on time. That has happened to us on several occasions. And we've always been able to pay because we have money allocated for that kind of situation. Because with us, it's always about doing what we say we're going to do every single time. And especially when it comes to pay, when it comes to anything that we do from a business standpoint, life standpoint, just try to do what we say we're going to do all the time. Okay. The next thing we'll talk about is a phone service. We have a VoIP, voice over IP phone service. And I'll be honest with you, we're going to probably have to get another service that is, provides a better service. We just have clarity issues, some hesitation issues, or stall issues with the voice, and things of that nature. And in this business, when you're talking to customers, you only have a short period of time to say what it is that you need to say, and that needs to be communicated clearly, precisely, effectively. And a phone service is very important in that. Something where they can hear you without, a delay. So I would say ask questions when it comes to what type of phone service you're going to select. And at the same time, be mindful of cost, where you have a phone service here that you conduct business from. That's a bill. And you have, of course, your cell phone that you may conduct business on. That's a bill. So we try to be mindful of that. Of course, to always be as aware of overhead as possible. So that, if you see a need to decrease overhead, or it may even be sometimes where you have to increase the overhead, but you just want to make sure that you are aware of what your overhead is always and control that number. Because, of course, you don't make profit until overhead is accounted for. Okay, so after a phone service, you choose a phone service, we had to choose a load board. Now, a load board is where you're going to go out and load or post your loads. When you get a load from the shipper, you'll go out to Internet Truck Stop, DAT Express load board, whatever load board you may choose. Some use Get Loaded. Me personally, I use Internet Truck Stop and DAT. Alliance Logistics, we use those two load boards. You can take a look at them and decide what's best for you. I wouldn't necessarily say that this one is better than the other one. I think it would be just a matter of opinion, a matter of experience, you checking it out to see what you think is best as far as a load board is concerned. A load board is simply used to post your loads so that trucking companies can see your loads, to give you a call, to negotiate pricing to move the load. Okay, the next thing that we're going to talk about is a transportation management system. That's the next thing that we put in place. With this system, basically this system will track your load from quote to invoice. From the time you give a quote to the shipper as to what is the cost of this load, to the time you invoice it. And of course that covers the quote, the rate con, that of course you'll send out to the driver when you agree to a price with him. So it's from the quote to the rate con, and then of course to invoice. And there are other different places where you can go in and post those loads to your load boards automatically as well. So it's covering that load from quote all the way to invoice, from the time you quote it to the time you invoice it to get paid on it. Okay. So you have to decide what system you think is good for you. Load Pilot is a system that we use. It's a very organized system. We really enjoy using that system because it's very organized and it keeps your loads organized. It keeps everything so that you can see it and report on it as needed. But there are many others out there that you may look at and say it's probably the best for you at this particular time based on your needs. So I would tell you to do your due diligence where those are concerned and make the decision that's best for you. Next, I want to talk about briefly, and we talked about it already, is overhead. Our overhead costs are less than $1,000 monthly. And I think that is one of the key components of being able to establish a profitable, successful business is, of course, to keep overhead down. And we are allowed to keep our overhead under $1,000 with, of course, being able to come into a business, choose a few systems that you're going to need, not anything that is going to cost an enormous amount of money starting out, but something that will help you manage your system, your business, and keep it. I would say keep it under $1,000. I think that's very doable. We have all of the systems that we need in place now. I'm sure that we'll identify some other things that we need at some point. But the key thing about it, the key to me is, from what we've experienced, is to keep the overhead manageable. Ensure that your overhead is manageable, right? Because once your outgo exceeds your income, then your upkeep is your downfall. So just be mindful of the overhead piece. And the last thing that I want to discuss is developing relationships. This is such an important piece. This is a instrumental piece to the success of a freight broker. And it's all about developing relationships with the customers, the truckers and the shippers. Those are our customers. And with truckers and shippers, it's about doing what you say you're going to do. I explained on the truck driver side about paying a trucker, keeping your word, doing what you say you're going to do. And it's the same on the shipper side. If you, for instance, if you get a load from a shipper and you've given a price to the shipper to move that load, and oh, by the way, you find out, man, I underbid this load drastically. It was a drastic underbid here. It was a mistake. So now you have a load, and you can do one or two things. You can call the shipper and give it back to him and tell him that you can't move the load, which is going to damage the relationship, I would think, for certain. Or you can move the load. Why? Because you said that you could move the load at that particular price. We don't subscribe to putting our word out and telling the shipper that we can move a load and then saying, oh, we miscalculated, and then go back to the shipper and ask for more money or tell them that we cannot move it. No, we simply move the load. If we have to absorb cost in that, then so be it. But once we give our word, there's a rate quote signed between the shipper and I. Then Alliance Logistics is responsible for moving that load. And that's a responsibility we take in that. And that's just the bottom line. So that is all that I'm going to discuss right now. We'll come back at another time, and talk about some other things in reference to struggles that we've had in the business, and what we're doing to overcome the challenges and hurdles and obstacles that you face every single day. But that's the beauty of the business. Once again, if you're interested in becoming a freight agent, or you want some more information about a freight broker, and I'll talk about the freight agent piece at a different time. But please get in contact with us. Again, I'm Brandon with Alliance Logistics. Our website is www.alliancelogistics.net. And you can reach out to me at 470-427-2711, extension 101. I surely appreciate your time. I look forward to the opportunity for us to dialogue and possibly do business in future. Thank you so much for your time.